Okay, good morning all. It's now 10 o'clock. I will now call the meeting to order of the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners of our November 21st, 2024 meeting. The first order of business is the pledge, and it'll be led this morning by Commissioner Danny Tarkanian.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, having said that, the County Board of Commissioners conducts business of Douglas County and its citizens during the Board of County Commissioners meetings. The board may impose reasonable, content-neutral restrictions on public comment, such as comments that are topics that are not within the jurisdiction, authority, or control of the Board of County Commissioners, or the content of the comment is willfully disruptive of the meeting by being irrelevant, repetitious, slanderous, offensive, inflammatory, irrational, or amounts to a personal attack or interfering with the rights of other speakers. The presiding officer may order the removal of any person whose statement or other conduct disrupts the orderly, efficient, or safe conduct of the meeting. And most of you have heard all of this before, so I'm going to skip down to the bottom. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker unless additional time is granted by the board chairperson. The Board of Commissioners uses timing lights to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. You will see a green light when you begin, and then a yellow light which indicates that you have 30 seconds left and that you should conclude your comments. Once the light turns red, please sit down. Having read that and skipped some of it, public comment is now open.
Good morning, Ellie Waller. This event center will be heard by the TRPA Legal Committee in December. The Legal Committee is a smaller function of the governing board. We have no Douglas County person on that committee. I believe this meeting is December 18th. I'm imploring you next, as a board that can make the decision to postpone the South Shore Area Plan process until 2025. Jennifer, thank you for the preciseness in presenting the Douglas County budget at two recent occasions. With that said, why would we want to have two amendment packages for the South Shore Area Plan in less than 12 months? Jennifer, you accurately described the limitations on county budgetary constraints. Furthermore, the Ascent Environmental Consultant contract expires near the end of December, I believe. The scope of work, now that Barton is doing separate environmental analysis directed by TRPA, needs to be revised, I believe, and hoping Douglas County hasn't wasted too much time, effort, and dollars doing what Barton is doing now. I've stated on several occasions that this area plan process is the worst I've ever seen. To get to the heart of that matter, but not yet clarified, that TRPA has asked the Barton team to do an environmental level of assessment. This is the lowest and does not check all the boxes over the 20 years that I've done this. Yesterday, I posed this question to TRPA executives, governing board members, and their legal counsel. How can TRPA in good conscience only require Barton to provide an environmental assessment when a healthcare district and hospital have never been analyzed? Next on my topic is item number 4. I know it'll be for presentation. We don't really know what to ask, so we're asking it now. Who can provide suggestions to go to the legislature in 2025? Who will prioritize these suggestions, and hoping for a good, robust discussion at a meeting here? I previously stated the 1997 legislation to fund the Tahoe Douglas Visitors Authority should be reviewed to free up additional TOT dollars for other Tahoe urgent needs. The event center is built and bonded. Next, the 777 plan being proposed and was discussed at the interim committee for the oversight of TRPA, as well as other sessions. Unfunded regional transportation total $4 million. This needs to have a full discussion. There will be a request of Douglas County for $7 million between local and private entities in Douglas County. And lastly, I'm hoping in January 25, we will reevaluate committee assignments, and each committee has an alternate. So we are fully covered, so the public does get feedback either bi-monthly or quarterly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Susan Olson. I live in Minden. We are all tired of the cell tower controversy going on. All of us, we understand. I know we are doing the right thing here, and I believe in the future you will also agree with us once further information starts coming out. I want to remind you as a registered nurse that there's still a judgment against the FCC in regards to an outdated 28-year-old safety study that they have not yet proved to the council yet that there are adequate safety tests, and there has been no safety tests done on children. I keep saying this. Also, you guys, as a nurse, we had to give drugs that had a black box warning on it. Very dangerous. We had to get your consent before we would give you that drug. And with this cell tower, please get our consent. There are warnings with living close to the cell tower radiation. I want to share a story with you. On September 7th, my husband and I were at the Pioneer Center. My phone kept vibrating in my purse, and I knew something was wrong. My daughter finally contacted us and said, "Mom, there's a fire next to our house. We can't get there, we're hours away." So my husband and I left. We went to her house. She lived by the Davis Creek fire. She had 2 dogs locked in the house and asked us to get their elderly neighbors out. So when we got there, it was fine. We were unloading the house and getting things out and getting our dogs. And then suddenly on our last trip out, it was black smoke. We could hardly breathe. And a sheer panic hit us because, and I have a picture of this if you'd like to see it. Old 395 was gridlock. Solid cars from Washoe Valley all the way to Mount Rose Highway. I said, "Oh my God, how are we going to get out?" The fire was moving so fast towards us that if it had continued, people would have been burned in their cars, one way in, one way out in that particular area. No fire department or police could have reached us at that point. Then we said, how are we going to get out with 2 elderly people, 2 dogs, and the stuff on our back that we were carrying out of our house? Every situation is different. Station 14 and Station 6 are located in dangerous areas where we could get that gridlock again. 88 has traffic by the county one. The high school parents are going to show up if there's a fire. Cell towers do burn. They are hit by lightning. This is a risk. The daycare parents show up. The dance studio parents show up. We have, same with Pinion Hills. You're going to have traffic off Stephanie Lane, and parents are going to show up. We need to be able to allow our police and fire to get in. The cell towers that are in the middle of town are much safer. We really need to keep them away from schools and daycares and public. Much new safety study is coming out and will be coming out, and I think you'll agree later that it is safer to keep it away. Please, let's do it right for all the residents and children on December 5th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Julie Duda. I have a general question before I start, and that is, will Douglas County protect residents from unethical fee hikes? Gardnerville is going for a 35% increase in trash fees. 3 years ago, an email from County Deputy District Attorney to the County CFO describes relevant codes for enterprise funds, including NRS codes and NAC. The email concludes with a recommendation to refer a fraud, waste, abuse report to the County Internal Review Committee for action on the salary benefit allocation by the town of Gardnerville. This is a copy of that email. Now the town wants a 35% fee hike, which will cost the Gardnerville community more than $500,000 every year. This fee hike is proceeding without an expense audit. Doing an audit before a rate hike may determine if financial manipulation or public fraud exists. A second action could be review, adjustment, and publishing current salary benefit allocations. These are two appropriate fiduciary actions. Will the County Internal Review Committee be proactive and transparent and take these two relevant actions: expense audit and review, adjust, publish the salary allocations? Another major trash issue is service options, or more precisely, lack of options. The current 95-gallon tote, one size fits all, does not match customer profiles. Suggestions: number one, include a smaller tote option, and or number two, provide an opt-out process.
Ma'am, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what you're talking about is out of the control and jurisdiction of this board. You're talking about the town, and we have no control over the town.
Sir, I would like to point out that this email from 3 years ago does involve the county. It's from the county deputy district attorney to the county CFO regarding the town allocation on salary benefits. It seems to be relevant. I'm almost finished. May I continue?
No, you may not. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the County Commission, for clarification, the Board of County Commissioners has jurisdiction and control over the budget of the town of Gardnerville, no jurisdiction or control over totes, tote sizes, the level of service provided, and the type of service, trash service in the town of Gardnerville.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Greg Olson. I'm also a Minden Town resident, here to speak a little bit about the towers. Just an important point. I'd first like to say I think that all five of you have incredibly difficult jobs. You balance a lot of difficult decisions for this town, and this being one of them, and one that you'll hear next November 7th. The one thing that I'd like you to know is I've spent 44 years in critical care medicine. That's all I've ever done in my career. Thankfully, I'm retired. But one of the things that's being presented to you guys is that having towers will enhance 911 services. I assure you that 911 is not dependent on the carrier at all. You can have a cell phone that's not even attached to a carrier, dial 911, and it will ping to the nearest 911 service. So to say that Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile is essential for 911 communications, I respectfully disagree with that assumption. It does not really help with 911 or reverse 911 at all. So in considering that as an argument, please take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. You guys all know me by now. Patrina French, Douglas County resident, 42 years. We're a grassroots group, which you guys probably, Minden for Safe Technology. And we have 2 properties in close proximity to both stations 6 and 14. According to studies, cell towers need to be placed 1,640 feet from homes, businesses, schools, and the public, where people are for more than 4 hours a day. Ellie and Friends and the dance studio are 235, which you guys all have that data, from the tower. Our home is 900 feet. Station 6 is 800 feet from our home and closer to Pinion Elementary. Those children are in school over 8 hours a day. People were notified within 800 feet from Station 6 in the neighborhood out in Johnson Lane. The safe evacuation time to get those children out back to Station 14, you're not going to be able to evacuate those children at Ellie and Friends or the dance studio. Businesses don't want to take calculated risks being next to a cell tower. This will affect property taxes, aesthetics, businesses, and safety. There's not enough data. There isn't, of the safety of these cell towers. We're in a flood zone out in Johnson Lane. The winds back in 2015 blew up to 90 miles an hour. Semi-trucks toppled over, several trees, power lines were knocked down near 395 and Muller Lane. That was in the Reno Gazette in 2011. There are many subject matters that have been in conflict with the ordinances. It's not when, it's if not when, you can never trust electricity even if it's upgraded, if there's a fire. Also, I want to note, my neighbor Susie Ralston went to the paper, the local paper here in town. She wanted to print an article about these towers. She was denied. For the record, I'm here to speak on behalf of the voice that cannot be heard, our children. What are we going to leave to them? And thank you so much for listening to me today. I know you guys have heard me over and over sound like a broken record, but I'm fighting for the voice that cannot be heard.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ready? Who's timing? Okay. Casey Rogers for the record. Verizon has sent out a text, and I'm with Minden for Safe Tech. They sent out a text to all the residents around here in the area. And here it states, I quote, Verizon message, reply yes to this text to show your support for improved Verizon wireless service in the Minden and Gardnerville area. Add a message to tell Douglas County officials that you support wireless facilities at Fire Stations 6 and 14 and on an existing tower on Waterloo Lane. Add your email address for more info and updates. We kind of feel this is a nefarious play because there are family plans out there and a lot of children could reply yes to this text message. So we wanted to bring that up to you guys and let you know in case there's a flaw in it that we can properly notify you prior to them submitting such things, and they might already have. The other part is I've been hearing of a lot of Verizon people in the town of Minden who've all of a sudden had a bunch of issues since we've been fighting the tower coming in. So there could very well be complaints coming, but with Verizon controlling their own systems, you kind of have to note that there could also be a flaw in that if they present any of that to you. And that is why I'm here today, is to let you know, to please be aware when it is coming to you, if it has not already. And the last thing I want to say is please keep these towers away from our children. The elementary school at Station 6 is within the 800 radius, they will be notified because they were in the geological survey issued a notice because they're so close. So please keep this away from our children. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, Commissioners. Moren Casey for the record, speaking on item 4. I'm currently a member of the Planning Commission and Douglas County's representative on SLUPAC. NRS Section 376A.040 reads, imposition, payment, and distribution of sales tax and use tax in certain counties, use of proceeds effective through September 30th, 2029. In addition to all other taxes imposed on the revenues from retail sales, a board of county commissioners of a county whose population is less than 700,000 may by ordinance impose a tax at a rate of up to 1/4% after receiving the approval of a majority of the registered voters of the county voting on the question at a primary, general, or special election. Since being appointed to SLUPAC in 2020, one of my goals has been removal of the sunset of 2029 from 376A because it restricts the ability of counties under 100,000 from imposing or collecting an open space tax after this date. This affects 15 counties, of which only one, Carson, currently collects an open space tax. Starting in 2022, Douglas County appeared to be in political crosshairs, and it didn't appear worthwhile to continue looking for a legislator willing to speak on behalf of Nevada's small counties at our behest. However, with the start of the 2025 session, there may be an opportunity with James Settlemyer as Director of Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Ken Gray's reelection, and renewed interest in preserving Nevada's landscapes. It is essential that this language be removed so Douglas County can continue moving forward with its goal to maintain its agricultural heritage and implementing its open space plan as written in the 2020 Master Plan. I respectfully ask the Board of Commissioners to direct McDonald Carano Government Affairs and Advocacy Group to add the removal of the sunset clause effective through September 2029 from NRS 376A to their work list for the 2025 legislative session. Thank you.
Can we usually don't ask questions. Yeah, can we?
Yes, after everyone.
We could ask questions
You
of,
can ask questions.
very good. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Bill Cerrito. I'm a licensed engineering, environmental, and disaster recovery contractor. Before I start my rant on 5G, I just want to say how much I love and respect each and every one of you, including our sheriff's department. I'm in their debt. There isn't anything I wouldn't do to protect my county from any kind of legal action that could be taken by a $1 billion communications FCC or Verizon. I wanted to clear the air about some fake news that's going around about this Minden for Safe Tech, of which I'm one of the founding members of, that we are tin hatters, conspiracy theorists that only care about 5G radiation and the health effects, though that is a concern. What we are mostly concerned about is county ordinances B through H, 3 of which I'll speak of right now, aesthetically displeasing. One of the Minden Town members, by the way, Minden Town board found that both Station and 14, they voted unanimously, and one of their concerns were the aesthetically displeasing, and one of the town members said, as you drive up Highway 88, the first thing you're going to see is this toilet bowl brush in our beautiful historic town. This 5G tower will disrupt the beautiful view, the Job's Peak range, and we just don't want that. That is a county ordinance. Second one, This ruins property values. Nobody wants to live underneath a 5G tower for whatever reason. Property values will dissipate. And what's that going to do to our tax base? Our fire department, East Fork, talked about backhaul and the desperate need to upgrade these communications. Well, and they also mentioned that this would improve response times. Well, how about putting a fire truck out at Station 6? That's not really a fire station if there's no fireman or no fire truck there. We lost a structure, and I talked to the owner, which lost a garage that burned to the ground. He said it took 20 minutes for Station 14 to get out there. That could improve response times. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chair. Last month, Commissioner Gardner expressed skepticism regarding the demand for Lake Link microtransit beyond the current route in Douglas County Lake District. I present compelling data to challenge and correct this misconception. At the October Seniors Luncheon, I asked attendees if they would use Lake Link and if it were available to them. Out of 108 participants, 88 signed in favor for it. A resounding endorsement. At the October Seniors Luncheon, following this, I conducted a 2-question survey on local media next door at the lake, which further validated this demand. Over 50% of the respondents supported extending Lake Link services to Cave Rock, 28% to Glenbrook, and 18% to Upper Kingsbury. Notably, 80% of respondents were already familiar with the service. These findings make it clear to our community members want access to this service. Currently, Lake Link primarily serves tourists, the Star Alliance, and South Lake Tahoe residents, while the needs of Douglas County locals remain unmet. 2 years after this board committed to the microtransit, it is overdue to deliver on its promise for your constituents. As a representative of Tahoe Douglas Senior Board, I'm also submitting a formal resolution from this board in support of expanding Lake Link to better serve the needs of our lake community. Let's act now to ensure this vital service benefits all who need it. Thank you.
Jim Slade. Our master plan states, quote, "The health and safety of our residents remains the highest priority for Douglas County." The highest priority. Most of the comments that you've heard today relate to health and safety. Another matter that primarily involves health and safety is the Vista Grande extension, which has been under consideration for decades. I think that 2 or 3 of the current board members were not here to experience what I believe was the worst traffic jam in Douglas County history, the one that followed a terrible accident at the intersection of Jacks Valley Road and 395. Traffic came to a standstill for hours because there was no viable way to get around that intersection. That is a health and safety concern. What if there had been a fire or some other natural disaster that people were trying to flee? Apparently, there's nearly a $1 million shortfall to get this done to county standards and to include needed bicycle and pedestrian paths. Of course, if this had been started even just 5 years ago, there would likely be no shortfall at all. Funding projects often comes down to 2 things: priority and timing. This board certainly doesn't have a monopoly on kicking the can down the road. It's been going on for decades. 5 or so years ago, for instance, there was a proposal to build a new justice center, but the board balked at the $30 million price tag. Now that will end up costing closer to $70 million. Or let's look at the event center at the lake. I have nothing against the facility, except that too much of the funding came from Douglas County, $30+ million, $1 million or so every year for 30 years, as I recall. Money that the county will likely never recoup. The casinos, who are the main beneficiaries of the event center, put in very little. Or how about the lake's glorified free taxi service, known as microtransit? That is a top-heavy, highly capitalized service that still benefits mainly the lake casinos and businesses and residents of California. Most commissioners admit that the service to Douglas County residents is inadequate for the amount of money that the county puts in. Instead of just putting in a more appropriate and required, I believe, $150,000 a year, however, the county has been overpaying by contributing $600,000 a year. So saying that we can't find $1 million is bogus. The point is this: there are lots of sizable expenditures that have been increased significantly due to kicking the can down the road, or gone to projects that do not promote the health and safety of our residents as much as an extension of Vista Grande would, not to mention the added convenience to residents and the tax income that will be generated by businesses that will use the commercial area next door. It's time to get this done, as the county has been talking about doing for a long time. Do it now, do it right, make it work, find the funds.
All rights reserved. Autographed under protest. We will not surrender our right to freedom of speech to any false authority who seeks to restrict our state constitution and the federal constitution, Article 1, Section 9 and 10.
State your name, sir.
Jason Garrick Gibson, on behalf of the Foundation for the Law of Time, American States National. Clearly here, our elected officials are in violation of their oath and their pledge, which is secured by the Redress of Grievances, Section 10, Nevada State Constitution, Section 9, Freedom of Speech and the Press, as well as our federal constitutional right to freedom of religion and freedom of speech. Good morning, Douglas County.
Sir, address your statements to the board, please, not to the public. I have no button.
I want my time restored, and you keep stealing that, and I want that time restored. So considering the enormous amount of resources, 8 inches, and over 60 hours of labor that the DA and the stakeholders of Douglas County invested into taking me off the ballot unlawfully, we still got 7,300 votes, and we thank you for that. That means there's 7,300 plus one heads who are genuinely awake in this county who voted for Bud Justice and the Peace Through Culture campaign. And despite the county's effort to remove me and incarcerate me for 45 days in 23-hour, 7-day lockdown, forcing me to take pharmaceutical drugs in order to be released, we are here today, and we are more optimistic than ever. We're going to put these documents on the record, and when we do the audit, we'll show that Douglas County spent about $250,000 in your taxpayer money to have me removed from that ballot. That's the kind of representation you have in Douglas County today. It's fascist. I didn't spend a single dime on the Peace Through Culture campaign, but you did. And we've been doing this since 1996. They say that I'm mentally incompetent for pushing this peace plan that's been on the table since 1935, that they don't want you to know about. They won't invest a single dollar in it because it would be the end of their scheming. It would be the end of the fraud.
It'd be the end of this crime and the end of this war that we know so well. But they're banking off it getting filthy rich, so they're not going to do anything about it. But we will. And that's why we're here again today. These stripes are vertical. There's a new government that's coming in, and you ain't a part of it. You're on your way out, Douglas County dinosaurs. It's a de facto government. It's unlawful, it's illegal, and it's criminal.
Thank you, sir. Your 3 minutes is up. Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. And Commissioner, you had a question.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, we have a matter for the record. 1 second.
1 second.
Amber, 1 second. We have a legal opinion for you.
I'm looking it up.
Do you want to take it in or do you want him to address it?
We're going to take a 10-minute break. We're in recess. Okay, 1 minute warning. Okay, the 10 minutes is up. If we would all take our seats again. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is
Mr.
there
Chair,
any changes?
I believe.
Yes, sir.
Didn't Commissioner Hales have something that she wanted to? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's been
Didn't mean
taken
to
care of.
interrupt.
All right, so I need any changes to the agenda? Seeing
Mr.
none.
Chair, I move for the approval of the proposed agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Yes, sir. No further discussion. All those in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next is approval of the previous minutes. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, I'm ready for a motion.
Previous minutes?
Been moved and seconded to approve the previous minutes. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll move to the consent calendar. We have items A through P. Does anyone need to pull anything from the consent calendar? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one housekeeping matter to bring to your attention regarding the consent agenda. This is Jennifer Davidson, County Manager, for the record. Regarding the backup documentation on consent agenda item B, the presentation for agenda item 3 is in the backup item under consent agenda B. I apologize for the confusion. The presentation, when we get to that administrative item, will be displayed in this room for the public, and I will direct everyone's attention to the relevant packet page number when we get there. But I did just want to take ownership of that mistake by my office. No, it's no fault of Ms. Bergens or her team, and just clarify that that presentation behind consent number B actually belongs to administrative agenda item 3. Thank you.
Now that we're thoroughly, thank you very much. Okay, in that case, did anyone need to pull anything from the consent calendar? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I move approval of consent items A through P.
Been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will move to the administrative agenda. Consent calendar items pulled. There were none. So we will move to item number 1, which is for presentation only. Presentation of Proclamation 2024 Paul-127, recognizing the 120th anniversary of the Record Courier. And I will be presenting that.
I've got this for you. Melissa, do you mind joining us? Thank you. All right, sir, here you go.
Thank you, and we even got the editor here.
Yes.
Yeah, well, what's a paper without an editor? Sorry about the
All right, this is Proclamation 2024 Paul-127 to recognize and celebrate the 120th anniversary of the Record Courier. You don't look that old. Whereas 120 years ago, the resilient spirit, I wonder who wrote this, the resilient spirit in Douglas County rose from the ashes when the owners of the Gardnerville Record, following the loss of their paper to a fire, merged with the Courier, thus forming one of Nevada's oldest and most respected newspapers, the Record Courier. And whereas on April 1st, 1904, I remember it well, longtime editor George Smith, who has been a part of the community's fabric since the start of Genoa in 1880, passed the leadership of the Record Courier to Stoddard and Charles Southworth, marking a new chapter in the newspaper's storied history. And whereas George Smith, with a career marked by dedication in the face of all conditions, whether political storms and civic challenges, said of his tenure, we have no regrets to offer as our course in the past, feeling that we have done our duty as we saw it to the last, honoring the decades of service to Carson Valley. And it goes on. Whereas the Record Courier, having relocated to Gardnerville in 1899 from Genoa, survived the fierce newspaper wars of the early 1900s, including competition with George the Fiddler LeMay's publication, before LeMay sold his paper to the Southworths in 1902, ensuring that the survival of a trusted news source for the people of Carson Valley. And whereas the roots of the Record Courier run deep, tracing back to the Carson Valley News in 1875 and its evolution through the Genoa Weekly Courier, establishing a foundation of journalistic integrity in Douglas County, Nevada for 150 years. And whereas more than a century in Gardnerville, the paper continued to adapt to the times, publishing from multiple locations throughout Carson Valley, including its recent move to Minden on February 1st, 2023, continuing its tradition of keeping the community informed. And whereas the Record Courier has continuously served as the trusted voice of Carson Valley, providing reliable news, fostering civil engagement, and chronicling the history and events that shape our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, on behalf of the people of Douglas County, do hereby recognize and celebrate the 120th anniversary of the Record Courier, honoring its legacy, its contributions to journalism, and its unwavering commitment to Carson Valley and its residents. Thank you, sir.
Always good to talk to you.
Would you like the microphone, sir?
I think I will take the microphone for a moment, but I promise to be good. I am wearing my 2004 Centennial T-shirt. 20 years old, this shirt. I can retire it now.
No, you can't.
Contrary to popular opinion, I do not own a pair of Record Courier pants. So, thank you very much. I appreciate everything that you folks do. We have a project here in Douglas County, and we're all just passing through. So we do the best we can while we're here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
I also, as publisher, I know that everybody recognizes there's no paper without an editor. And he is really the face of the Record Courier, and he has been with us over 30 years. You talk about 35?
It's 35 if you count.
Okay,
August
sorry,
99.
sorry. He's splitting hairs with me. We'll discuss this later. But he is a true historian for our community, and not all small rural newspapers have a Kurt Hildebrand. So I just want to give him special recognition.
Yes, I would also like to do the same. I just want to say, Kurt, I remember late nights with you. You were with us on several incidents. You and I would be corresponding to get information out. And then again, we'd have like 3 hours of sleep and we'd be corresponding again for the commute hours. So I want you to know how important you've been. Public information officer and the media relationship is super important. It's a special one. We don't always see eye to eye, right? But we have always respected one another, and you have always stayed true to the principles of journalism. And I have appreciated that so, so much. And we are very, very lucky to have you guys in this community. So thank you for all you do. We wanted to give you something extra special. Do you know what that is?
It is a type case.
That is
what that is.
Yes.
The devil scrambled the type today, but yeah.
We wanted to make sure that you had something extra special that represents all for our community. So thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Can I chime in?
Oh, are we doing the photo?
Can
Here,
I
I'll
chime?
get behind the microphone.
I want to chime in before we're done chiming. We moved here 36 years ago, and at that time, the Record Courier was in what is now the Especially for You building, and it was packed, full of people and desks and all kinds of stuff. And then it moved to the Record Courier building, and it filled a large space. And over time, staff has been minimized, and now you're in a small building. And I will say that I do not think the quality has suffered. And through all those 36 years, you have informed our family, educated, entertained, inspired. You've been factual. You've been fair to air all angles. And I will say that sometimes that's made me angry. But I respect it. I respect it so much. And your journalistic integrity is unimpeachable. I believe the Record Courier punches far above its weight, and you are a true treasure in our community, and you make us better. So thank you, Kurt, to you personally. Thank you, Kurt, Tara, Sarah, all of you, and the shoulders that you have stood on as you've done this really, really important work. So thank you.
No, Jennifer, I think you should be in the middle. I got no problem being on the edge. I can't get too close to the chairs. Absolutely. Every day. Thank you. Thanks again. Oh, let's take charge of this guy.
No,
Now I can get it.
I think we can handle it. Cool. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
While we're here, we'll move on to item number 2, which is for presentation only. A ceremonial presentation of Proclamation 2024 Paul-107, proclaiming November 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday in Douglas County.
Yeah. There's a reason. Come on down.
Hello.
Hello.
Long time no see.
I know.
All right, here we go with the whereases again. Proclamation 2024-107, November 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday in Douglas County. Whereas the government of Douglas County, Nevada celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. Whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 33.2 1.2 million small businesses in the United States that represent 99.9% of all businesses in the country and employ 61.7 million Americans. Whereas Small Business Saturday is a day dedicated to supporting small businesses and communities across the country and is part of the larger Shop Small movement founded by American Express in 2010 and co-sponsored by the Small Business Administration since 2011. This day is celebrated each year on the Saturday after Thanksgiving in the United States. Since it started in 2010, consumers have reported spending an estimated $200 billion at small businesses across all 14 Small Business Saturdays combined. Whereas Douglas County, Nevada supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities and advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endured this Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Some call it another name. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners November 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Adopted this day, the 21st day of November 2024 by the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you. And would you say something?
Sure.
Of course you will.
I'm usually the quiet one. Yes, we are happy to have Small Business Saturday on the 30th of November. What we have is at the Chambers, we have a passport where these local businesses will be giving us raffle prizes, and these shoppers get to go to each of the businesses and get their passport stamped for buying some small little trinket or some big trinket. And they will bring it back, that passport, and we will draw for raffle prizes. But very excited to have about 40 of them participating, and we look forward to making sure that they do well this coming year, especially after the construction. And you want to go into your candy cane Maine that
I'm sorry,
goes on past
really quick.
that?
Can I get your name really quick?
Oh, I'm sorry, Alicia Maine.
Thank you.
Jen Toon with Main Street Gardnerville. You know how we love our small businesses. I think Chairman Rice really dropped a lot of great numbers and stats, but I just want to remind you guys that for every $100 spent downtown, 68% of that stays in your local economy, which means that for every $100, you have $68 staying in your community. It is a return on investment that is really invaluable to our local economy. That money will recirculate throughout your district, or at least in your economy, at least 6 to 15 times, which means that your small business owners are then spending the money back into the district, and it is not going anywhere. And I'll also note that 136% is the rate that our small businesses contribute to charities, which is well over what businesses contribute over 500 employees. So they are truly the heart and soul of our community. They are the ones that are supporting everybody's sport events, their sport teams, and now is the time to support them. They need it the most, and as Alicia mentioned, they are really suffering the impacts of the local construction. So as much as we can get out there and support them, see them through the shoulder season, see them through the holidays, we're going to have a strong economy going into 2025. And to piggyback, I don't want to talk too much about our events because this is our Shop Small, but we will be doing another shopping event on December 7th of Candy Cane Main Shop Main Street, a cookie and cocoa crawl. And we hope that you will consider shopping Main Street and our local businesses throughout our downtown through the whole month of December, because Amazon is not going to save you.
Kathy Halberdier with the Nevada Small Business Development Center. And I just really wanted to say thank you to the county commissioners, to all of the county staff. They've been very supportive of our program as we work with the clients to help get them funded, open their doors. We brought the RISE program down here, the Sprint to Scale, and we have many businesses very unique that are doing exporting and doing different types of mobile businesses. And that's all thanks to your support that you've given to our program. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's get to the business of the day. For possible action, discussion on the Douglas County September 2024 investment report submitted by Douglas County, per Douglas County Code 3.02.040. And Amy Bergens, hello, and friend.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I have Greg Balls here with me from Meter Investments, and he will be doing the presentation today. So as Jen mentioned, County Manager Davidson mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, the agenda item, the presentation got attached to the wrong agenda item, and my apologies for not catching it sooner than this morning, where I frantically called the county manager's office. So it does start on agenda packet page 132. So if you want to follow along, we will also be presenting it on the screen once I get a little assistance on how to do that. The agenda item itself is for possible action. That is just to approve the September investments. The presentation itself is on an overview of the calendar year. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Greg.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Normally Rick Phillips is here, but he had a previous obligation, but I'm happy to be here. And he had a lot of applause before me, so I hope there's some applause after. We'll find out. But anyways, I'm going to go through the presentation really quick. And if you have any questions, please stop me, or you can wait till after as well. So Amy, if you can go to page 3. So just going to talk a little bit about the economy, and then I'm going to tie in and how that's going to affect the overall investment portfolio for the county. So basically, as far as what controls yields and therefore the county's return on investments are these 5 items here: the Fed policy, inflation, growth, employment, and then that affects yields, and they all kind of work together. I'm not going to go over page 4 too much, but it's there for your viewing pleasure. It's going to really summarize what I'm going to say in writing. So on page 5, talking about Fed policy. So the Fed has started to cut rates in September. They actually cut rates at their last meeting, and we expect that they will cut one more time in December for this year. And then next year, we'll see what happens. So this chart here in the orange is what the Fed expects to happen, and in the teal is what the market is expecting to happen. And you can see that they're all kind of in agreement now on where they feel that the Fed funds rate is going to be by the end of this year and by the end of next year. I think the key here is that the Fed is expecting to cut rates. Now, when I say that they control the front part of the curve, so like zero, like overnight to like 1 year, they're going to push those rates down. That doesn't mean the longer part of the curve, 5 years and longer, are going to go down in like fashion. So that's going to be really dependent on investors' view of long-term growth and long-term inflation. So speaking of inflation, page 6. The PCEs at the very top. So often you hear about CPI, which is that bottom chart there, but PCE is what the Fed looks at, and their target is 2%. And notice how it has trended lower over the last several years, but it remains above that 2%. And why is that important? Is because if it remains above 2%, then the Fed might not be as aggressive in cutting rates. So if it doesn't go below that 2%, then the Fed might keep rates higher for longer. On page 7, this is the growth of the overall economy as measured by GDP. The one thing I just want to point out is when you look at the forecast, growth is expected to slow. Now, it has remained resilient, but it is expected to slow going forward. Page 8. So this is the employment data. So the non-farm payroll at the very top has trended lower since post-COVID. The Fed's really keeping an eye on this. The unemployment rate was at 4.1%, and the Fed is expected to go up to about 4.4% in 2025. A lot of people look at the non-farm payroll as a measurement of if we're going to be in a recession or not. But what we really have been looking at is the weekly initial jobless claims, which is the bottom chart. If that starts taking off, then we'd be worried about a recession hitting. But right now, it remains very low, and we don't foresee a recession in the coming 6 months at least. Page 9. All right, so this is yields. So this is going back to 2004. You'll notice the Fed funds rate is in the orange, and the 2-year Treasury is in the teal. So that 1.91% represents the average yield for the 2-year going back to 2004. Now, yields have come down a lot over the last several months. However, it's nowhere near where it was after the Great Financial Crisis or post-COVID as well. Our feeling is that rates are going to remain elevated, which will help you on the investment side, not so much if you're going to issue debt, but on the investment side will definitely help the investment income for the county. Next page. I'm not going to go over this too much. This is just yields, looking at the Fed funds rate, 3-month, 1-year, 2-year, and 5-year. And with a July jobs report, August jobs report was really bad, so yields went down a lot. And then we had a stellar September jobs report, and yields jumped back up. And so the Fed has really shifted their focus from looking at the inflation data to the employment data. And going forward, we'll see what happens. So moving on to the portfolio. On the upper left-hand side, that's the sector allocation. The largest sectors are agencies, and then the local government investment pool. The maturity distribution is in the middle there. The bulk of the county's portfolio is under a year, just because you have potentially cash needs coming up and projects and what have you. And also we were earning more on short-term rates than we were on longer-term rates as well. And so that's why it's like that as well. In the middle, that's the month-end portfolio book yield. It had gone up a lot. The reason why I see that drop is because there was actually funds taken out of the portfolio, and then they were actually deposited back in. And so there was this kind of a month-end change there. So, but that has been reinvested into LGIP. If you can go to the next page. So looking at the historical book value, back in June of 2017, the book value was at about $75 million for the overall portfolio. You're now at about $140 million. its overall portfolio between the local government investment pool, LGIP, and then the portion that we manage. Next page, please. I'm not going to go over this too much. I'll try to explain it really quick, but we're looking at the weighted average book yield by every 6 months. The thing I just want to point out is, although the yield has increased for the county's portfolio, in 6 months' time, I think you'll start seeing you earning more on reinvestment. So that 1.5%, that represents all the maturities between 6 months to 1 year. If yields remain elevated, like I think they will, we'll be able to invest those at higher yields and therefore earn more investment income for the county. And last but not least, page 15, this is looking at your earnings, like what you're actually receiving. And so as of June 2024, the portfolios, LGIP, and what we manage earned over $5 million of investment income for the county. So far through this year, through September, it's at 1.3 million almost, and I got the data last night through October, it's a little over 1.7 million. And so going forward, if the Fed is not as aggressive as we don't think they're going to be as aggressive, therefore we think yields do remain a little bit higher, barring any geopolitical risk that might occur. We feel that we'll continue to increase the investment income for the county. So any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Okay, well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your time.
At least we weren't looking like a bunch of bobbleheads, but thank you for that. It was very, very informative, and it looks very positive. So that's a very good thing.
Yep.
So,
My pleasure.
thank you,
Well,
so much. And Ms. Bergens, would you like to add anything?
No, I just am so grateful to Meter Investments for everything that they've done. I've watched these investments for the last 4 years continue to draw monies in for the county, and am very grateful for their oversight of our investments on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. All right. Since this was for possible action, we will open for public comment. Seeing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion. Please, somebody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not something that we approve. So I guess anyways, I'll move to accept the Douglas County September 2024 investment report submitted per Douglas County Code 3.02.040 as presented.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
One more thing, right?
We're not supposed to have applause, but okay. All right, moving on to item number 4. This is for presentation only. Presentation on the outcome of the 2024 general election and the anticipated impact on Nevada State Legislature. The presentation will also include an overview of the 2025 legislative session, the legislative calendar and process, and the role of McDonald Corano Governmental Affairs and Advocacy Group, who were selected as Douglas County's lobbyists, Jennifer Davidson and Lindsay Knox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Jennifer Davidson, County Manager for the record. Here with me today is Lindsay Knox. She is the Senior President of Government Affairs and Advocacy, as you mentioned, sir, and she is pleased to give her presentation today as her first official act as the county's selected and appointed lobbyist. I look forward to what she has to share with us. Lindsay?
Oops.
There we go.
Lindsay Knox for the record. I'm the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs at McDonald Corano. I've been there for almost 18 years total. I am a Nevada, Douglas County, born and raised resident, but live in Reno currently. So really what I want to go over is kind of what the election results, only legislative results look like, as well as what that means for us going into the 25 session. And then I will kind of break down what I will be doing for Douglas County during the next session. So as you can see, we had a different type of election cycle, with Nevada actually picking Trump as the president, which has not happened in decades for Nevada to pick a Republican. But what was more interesting is what happened down the ballot. You can go to the next slide. So when we looked at the legislative races, there was a handful that were very, very competitive. And I give Governor Lombardo and his team an enormous amount of credit because they were very thoughtful in the races that they looked at in order to keep our legislature out of a 2/3 majority. Now, for those that do not know what a 2/3 majority is, once we get into the legislature, that means that if both houses have a 2/3 majority, they can pass anything. There is no veto power of the governor. You can pass taxes and policies without really any discussion. So the three competitive Senate races was Senate District 5 down in Clark County. Carrie Buck was the incumbent and won. Now, Senate District 11 is the unique race. That was a very predominantly Democratic seat. After redistricting, it shifted a little bit, but it was still, 9 points Democrat. Lori Rogage was able to beat incumbent Dallas Harris in that race. So that gave the Senate the ability to not have a supermajority. So the Republicans, it is a simple majority, which I think nobody expected going into the session. Senate District 15 is up in Reno, and that seat during redistricting really is where the Democrats expanded the Democratic number. Angie Taylor obviously winning that race, but again with Senate District 11 switching to Republican, we do not have a 2/3 majority. Go ahead. So then these are the competitive assembly races. Majority of them, I think, all but one, being in Las Vegas. The big seats here was Assembly District 4. That was won by Lisa Cole. Lisa is going to be wonderful to have in the Assembly, very, very bright woman. Where it got a little tricky was Assembly District 21. Elaine Marzola, Chair of Commerce and probably one of my biggest allies in that building. After Election Day, she was losing, but was able to pull it out. LaRue Hatch and Sandy race, that is in Washoe County. Obviously, LaRue Hatch won, but it was something that the governor had as one of his priorities. And then I would say, and then Assembly District 35, that was held by Assemblywoman Michelle Gorla, which was a Democrat, and the Republicans were able to flip that to a Republican to get them out of the super minority. So again, both houses, simple majorities, there must be discussion, they must work together, and the governor's veto is still in play. So this is what our Senate is made up of, 13 Democrats and 8 Republicans. Again, a simple majority. And then here is our Assembly. Again, 27 Democrats, 15 Republicans, another simple majority. So going into session, it has been a few weeks since the election, but the only 2 leadership positions that we know have not changed from the previous session, and that is Nicole Cannizzaro will be our Senate Majority Leader, and Steve Yeager will be the Speaker of the Assembly. This is actually a lower number than it has been in past sessions. We only have 17 freshmen, so only 17 new people we have to educate going into session. One incumbent lost, which was Dallas Harris in Senate District 11. I will say this number from yesterday to today has changed. So we currently have 558 bill draft requests. So majority of these will turn into bills, some will not. but that is what we are looking at now. That number will reach into the thousands once a session comes in. And right now, again, this number has changed since I've actually been sitting here. We have 152 bills that have currently been introduced that we are able to review. I give the Legislative Council an enormous amount of credit because they have started early, and normally we do not have any bills out by now. So we have 74 Assembly bills, 79 Senate bills, and we are reading through those, going through all of those things to know for what client. Yes, sir.
So, Ms. Knox, thank you. And I hope you don't mind if we interrupt you during this so
Please.
we can ask questions as we move along rather than having to come back. Is this an unusual amount of bill draft requests for this time of year?
No, it
It's
is not.
However, the bills introduced, is that uncommon?
So what I mean by uncommon is it is uncommon for them being released so early. Normally, when LCB starts releasing bills, it normally happens after Thanksgiving. So they were about almost a month and a half early releasing bills. And again, that is huge for us. It allows us to start dialogue early, start working on things prior to going into session, which again allows session to move a little smoother. Go ahead. So the 2025 legislative session starts February 3rd and will go through June 2nd. So that is 120 days, which is all they have based off of the Constitution. At this point in time, the legislative building is under construction, so it is unclear exactly how session will operate, but we hope to hear from that soon, as well as we hope to hear the chairman, how what each committee will look like, and who our chairmans will be. Go ahead. So currently, the legislative themes, there will be some big items coming forward, and I would say the film tax credits will be probably suck a lot of the air out of the room, as there will probably be 2 of those bills carried by different legislators. But it will take a lot of time and political power. I luckily have nothing to do with these, so I get to sit back and watch. But that will, again, probably take majority of session to get through those and take a lot of man hours. Housing is obviously another massive issue. It was a big issue last session and the session before, and it continues to be, whether that's from an affordable standpoint, an attainable standpoint, how we get shovels in the ground quicker is always a priority. But beyond even the state legislature, it's a local issue as well as a federal issue based off of the lands bills that are moving through Congress as I speak. This is one of the governor's priorities, and that's behavioral health, as well as a lot of the Democratic legislators. Behavioral health is a huge, huge issue in our state and will be a priority as we go into the session. Workers' compensation obviously impacts Douglas County as well as the rest of the local governments in our state. It seems to always be a hot button issue that kind of goes under the radar because it's not a fancy issue, but it does have massive impacts to the finances of local government. Criminal justice, this will also be something that's big. What those priorities are, we're still kind of waiting to see, but there will be, there's already been countless bills introduced. Transportation network companies. So this deals with the Ubers of the world. There was a ballot initiative put out by Uber that would cap trial attorneys. While nobody wants to see this go to the ballot, there is now going to be a bill, at least 2 bills, working on this issue, which, if not done correctly, could have an enormous impact on other industries such as construction and healthcare. Education, always a big issue, whether it's at the federal level, state, or local. But there are big education bills that are coming, and it's not normally an area that I work a lot in, but I do know that it will be a top priority. So those are kind of the themes that we see. Obviously, local governments will have massive impacts. When we go into session, they always do. And I have asked everybody, give me what we need to do, and we will accomplish as much as we can, and tell me your fiscal impact, because that is going to be how we save local governments from the push down of the legislature. And that is it. And just so you guys know, moving forward, I am always available for any and all of you. That is with your departments, with each of you commissioners. Please feel free to call me, text me anytime. I am your lobbyist in Carson City, and I'm very proud and honored to represent Douglas County, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I just have some closing comments. We know that we've had members of the public ask regarding how this process will work moving forward and whether or not the public will have an opportunity to engage with our lobbyist and with the county commission as the legislative session progresses. The answer is yes. Obviously, we have a lot of moving parts throughout the session. We will be inviting Ms. Knox back periodically. My office will work very closely with her to provide regular updates and status reports to the county commission. And when we need to have a discussion or seek direction from the county commission, we will list those items and those specific bills for possible action. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that process, have seen how that unfolds. And we will do that at public meetings of the county commission. Additionally, if the board wishes at any point for a presentation to be given on a particular topic, or a member of the public would request something, I would welcome that conversation at my office level, or certainly the members of the public are welcome to ask for items under public comment. With that, Mr. Chairman, we turn it back over to the board.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair. So, not really a question, but more just some comments. Ms. Knox, I look forward to working with you this session, not only from a county standpoint, but also as the incoming president-elect of Nevada Association of Counties. Anyways, and I serve on that legislative committee in that regard. So, and we'll be tracking a lot of different bills as well. I am very, very pleased that the governor's veto pen is still active. Certainly, too often, I would say, too often, the state legislature puts mandates upon the counties that are unfunded, and that eats into our general fund and becomes problematic for us in trying to run local government. So anyways, we'll be watching those closely. So I look forward to this process. I would indicate to my fellow commissioners that in a session that we had at the most recent NACO conference in September, and talking with previous state legislators, I do know that, and Ms. Knox and I have had this discussion, and so I would ask you, Ms. Knox, to reach out to us as you feel we can be advocates. The state legislatures previous state legislators indicated that, quite frankly, when a commissioner comes before them and goes into their office, they're a little bit more receptive than necessarily a lobbyist. Okay, so I would encourage my fellow commissioners to take advantage of that opportunity, something that we feel passionate about or feel like it's important for us to get on behalf of our county. I'm hopeful, a cautious optimism, I guess, that with the fact that there is no super majority in the state legislature, and I say that on both sides of the issue. Okay, it's not good when one party dominates another, and we've seen ramifications of that, negative ramifications of that in other states. Okay, where one party has super majorities in both of their chambers, and it doesn't work to the benefit of the residents in the counties. So I'm hopeful, cautiously hopeful, because as I understand it in talking with our state Senator Robin Titus, Dr. Robin Titus, and our state assemblyman Ken Gray, that even though they were active and they were provided opportunities for having bill draft requests, generally, what they found in that last session was that those bill draft requests went immediately into the circular file next to the chairman's desk. So that was disappointing to hear, and I'm hoping that it'll be much more collaborative between the parties at the state legislature. But I intend to be very or somewhat more active this next year, and if there's anything that I can personally do to assist you in your job, please feel free to reach out. Okay, please feel free. Words have meanings, right? I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
As I look forward to working with you, and I wanted to go back to something you said, is I am not the expert. My job is behind closed doors. Whether it is a county commissioner, whether it is a department head, you are the experts, and I am there to facilitate and help. Your words speak much louder than mine do. When it comes to speaking at committees, coming with me to meet with legislators, it is invaluable that they hear from the county itself. So thank you for saying that. It is, again, vitally important, and that is how we are successful, is by everyone's engagement. And again, I look forward to working with all of you. Douglas County has a very special place in my heart, and I am just very excited to go into next session. Last comment I will make, and because this is public, it's probably not going to go over great if other people hear this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I don't think we're going to see much of a shift from those bills being heard from our Republicans. That is, I think, just the nature of the beast. I'm sure some will, but I think there will be a very similar temperature as there has been in prior sessions.
I want to ask about budget, because that's very closely related to what can be done or might be done. And the so if you could remark on what's it looking like, and also the one thing that caught my eye, I mean, if we can there may occasionally be an interest where our interest aligns with the majority. And I would want to run with those. But the one square that caught my eye is housing, because housing is in our strategic plan. So if there were budget and they were working on housing, I would want to be in on that. And anything else that would be to our good.
So when it comes to the budget, we have the Economic Forum coming up, which will kind of set the tone for how much money is available going into session. So right now, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're doing very well in the state from a net revenue standpoint, but I could be very off. But I think we're doing well. When it comes to budgeting for local governments, I think everybody in this room knows that unfunded mandates is what destroys our local governments. And I have asked Jennifer, as well as every department, please help me. Help me understand your fiscal impact. Do not give me a zero. Tell me, because that is going to be what I sit with each one of these legislators with. And be like, this is what you are doing. And I give Clark County an enormous amount of credit, because they had a spreadsheet that they literally walked around session with in 23 and said, here is the fiscal impact of unfunded mandates, to the county. How do you expect us to do this? So I think if we can, as local governments in general, can work together on that mission, we can hopefully be successful. When it comes to housing, housing is very interesting. It's a very hot topic, but it is so different with each jurisdiction. And that's even within, you take, as big as Clark County is, you take the city of Henderson to Las Vegas, to North Las Vegas, to the actual county, they're all different. And so creating policy at the state level that doesn't have a negative impact from the urban to the rurals to cities to counties is very difficult. And that is a place that I play a lot in, as I represent home builders. So I know that, again, the governor has a robust bill that he is currently working on. Other legislators have their bills. The goal is to not do something to one that is going to impact another. And that is where I really try to spend my time. And even when I did not represent Douglas County, my question always was, well, how does this impact the rural communities? So a lot of times you will see a population cap be put into place to make sure that it's just a Washoe, Clark County situation. Sometimes we cannot do that, and other times we are successful with that. So again, housing, from a funding perspective, it gets a little tricky when you start bringing public funds into housing, because what does that trigger? It triggers prevailing wage. And what does prevailing wage do to building homes? Increases the cost to make it then unaffordable for whether it's true affordable housing or attainable housing. So it's a balance on how you do that and do it successfully.
One more follow-up, really just, it is so annoying to have the legislature pass things that are tailored specifically for Clark and might work in Washoe, but don't. Here, like the 24-hour hearings on weekends when we don't have any, previously had no justice court open. And it cost us a lot of money, and they finally helped with that. But I want to push back hard on those things that might work for them but don't work for us.
And I completely agree with you. And it is something that I pay a lot of attention to. I mentioned earlier, like I look at how it impacts urban, because even something that impacts Clark may impact Washoe in a very similar way to it does to Douglas County because of those big gaps in population. So you have my word, that is something that I'm very aware of and I pay very close attention to.
Seeing no further comment from the board, I will throw my 2 cents in. I've been very concerned when you put the legislature up on the board with the reds and the blues. The majority of everybody that's going to be in that building is from the South. Now, I don't want to start a North and South war. We already fought that one, where somebody's already fought that one. But I'm very concerned, especially because some of the legislators down there tend to use California as a template. And they have had such problems across the border, where they have liberalized and decriminalized acts that have tied the hands of law enforcement. And I'm so thankful that our governor and our lieutenant governor are both former law enforcement. And hopefully they will be able to hold the line to keep them from liberalizing our criminal laws any more than they did in the last legislature, where they almost made, they made felonies misdemeanors and misdemeanors infractions. And so we need to really stay on top of that, because that did impact Douglas County.
Absolutely. And I know the exact bill that you're talking about. That was actually done in the 21 session. I worked on that bill, portions of it for different clients, especially retail theft. So yes, there have been problems. I think that they have been recognized. So there is going to be a slight shift in the way that we approach these and bringing some legislation that I think actually go the other direction, the more conservative direction. So we will see. Everything is to be determined when you're in Carson City, and you are right. Majority of our legislature is in Clark County. When you base things off of population, that is what you get. But I will say, and where I will give some of our legislators credit, is they do a very good job to work with us. And that is why you have a lobbyist. That is why business, local governments have lobbyists, is to help mitigate those issues. And that is my job, is to mitigate, is either to pass, kill or mitigate. That is what I do in that building. Moving forward, I talk to legislators about every bills. I work with other lobbyists, probably more than I really want to, but I do. But it is to create the least amount of damage possible.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had one additional
Yes, sir.
question. And it's been asked by the members of the public. Do you represent other counties in this process?
I do not represent any other counties. I do represent the city of Fallon, and that is it from a local government perspective.
Okay, and I guess that was concerns about possible conflict of interest between counties in your process there. So thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah, I was asked to do additional, but I just found that to be problematic because of that. But no, I do not.
All right, anything further from the board? This is a presentation-only item, so we will not have public comment on this item. And I think that we could probably take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and hopefully power through the rest of the agenda. So 10-minute break. Okay, the 10 minutes has elapsed. So let's see if we can power through this, and if not, at 1 o'clock, we'll take a lunch break. So if we're done by 1 o'clock, we won't, and if we aren't, we will. All right, we're going to take items 5 and 6 as one item. For item number 5 for possible action, discussion to adopt the 9/11 surcharge 5-year master plan as recommended by the 9/11 Surcharge Advisory Committee on September the 16th, 2024. And for presentation only will be the introduction of ordinance 2024-1647, amending Douglas County Code Chapter 3.50 to increase the 9/11 surcharge from 75 cents to $1 per month per line or number, and to reduce the limit on the uncommitted balance in the 9/11 surcharge special revenue fund from $1 million to $500,000. First reading, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Jennifer Davidson, County Manager for the record. With me today is our Director of Emergency Management, Kara Easton. And I almost said Kara based on a conversation we had earlier today. I do apologize. Man, when that gets in your head. Anyway, I am so pleased to have Kara with me here today. She does oversee our 911 emergency communications team. As part of her duties in this role, she does also work on our 911 surcharge 5-year master plan. We did have the chairman read these two items into the record. They are related, and Ms. Easton will be giving you a presentation and then discussing why we are recommending an increase in the surcharge rate. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Easton.
Thank you, County Manager Davidson. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Kara Easton for the record. I'm just going to go over our 5-year master plan as recommended by the Advisory Committee. So just a little information about our communications center, our staffing. We have 1 emergency communications manager, 3 supervisors, 3 seniors, 12 dispatchers, and 1 accounting specialist that we share across the entire Department of Emergency Management. And our communications center serves 6 major agencies. So our Sheriff's Office, East Fork Fire Protection, Tahoe Douglas Fire Protection, the Washoe Tribal Police Department, Alpine County Sheriff's Office, and then the Eastern Alpine Fire and Rescue. We do some calls for our juvenile probation, alternative sentencing, animal services, and a variety of others. Our calendar year 2023 total number of just phone calls, we had 23,000 coming in on the 911 line, 95,000 on our non-emergency line. One thing I do want to caveat with that is sometimes folks do call the non-emergency dispatch line and it is an emergency and turns into a call for service. And then our outgoing calls were approximately 29,000. And so that includes us making phone calls to other agencies for an emergency purpose. So our total number of phone calls was 148,000 approximately last year. Yes.
I just wanted to, I did the quick math on that, 911 emergencies, that's 64 and a half a day. That is mind-boggling. I don't know if our community understands that. Mind-boggling. Wow.
Age in Douglas County is up there. So that might be a rise in the emergency calls.
I wouldn't have ever guessed that anyone would phone a number that's not 911 for an emergency.
It's amazing what people do or how they perceive something, whether it's an emergency or not, because we do get non-emergency phone calls on 911 also. So just another stat that I didn't put up there is, so our calls for service last year, which means a responder did go out and help the community, whether it was an emergency or not. So of that was 46,799. So as you see, that's not the same number as the 911 emergency incoming, but overall we had 46,000 touches with responders. So we do get a lot of non-emergency calls relating to getting records from the jail and the sheriff's office, dogs barking, also just random things. You know, my neighbor turned their fireplace on. So lots of concerns. So the 911 Surcharge Advisory Committee, we have to have that per Nevada revised statute, and they oversee expenditures for the 911 surcharge fund. It is made up of 5 voting members. Per NRS, one of those members must be from our local law enforcement agency. For us, we have Under Sheriff Elgis as our representative. And then we also have to have 1 voting member from a local exchange carrier, and our current person is from AT&T. So those are our 2 mandated voting members. The committee's role is to assess the regular technical needs of the 911 system and to make recommendations for necessary changes and upgrades. And so that's relating to equipment, software, and training. As you know, technology is ever evolving, and once you buy something, it's already out of date. So we're consistently trying to find something that will create that strong infrastructure as well as redundancies, because as you know, sometimes things don't always work the way you want them to. They also are overseeing the proper use of funds collected under the surcharge in accordance with legal authorities. And then they are also charged with developing this 5-year master plan. So they do that in conjunction with our emergency communications manager, and then they present those recommendations to you folks to be approved. So that's why we're here today. So our legal authorities, the surcharge was created under 47 CFR 9.23. That basically gives the counties the authority to determine how much they are charging consumers for 911 services. The NRS is 244A.764 through 7648. And that basically gives the overall authority to the board on what they can charge. So for NRS, each county is allowed to charge $1 per month for each line and $10 per month for each trunk line. So basically, if you have a PBX or where multiple lines can call into once, that's the $10 per month for each trunk line. NRS also does give us authority on what we can spend. However, it can't supersede what CFR tells us we can spend our money on. And then our last legal authority is the Douglas County Code, Chapter 3.5, which pretty much mirrors what the NRS says. So our allowable expenditures, these are the main 3. There's a laundry list of others, but we are allowed to spend money on telephone systems used for transmitting information from an emergency responder to the user or from the user to an emergency responder. So I think it's important to highlight what a telephone system is called. It's not necessarily what you dial every day. It can be a radio, a pager, texting, or your basic telephone. It's just basically how you're getting that information from someone in distress to dispatch and to the responder, so that conduit of information from the starting point. We are also allowed to spend money on operating costs for our public safety answering point, which is a fancy way of saying dispatch. So that includes hardware, software, personnel, and training. And then providing for the interoperability of 911 systems with one another and with public safety and first responder radio systems. So our actual and projected results of surcharge fees. As of January 1st, 2019, our monthly surcharge fee collected is 75 cents per individual phone line and $7.50 per trunk line. Our projected revenue is $565,000. And then our recommended changes are increasing the surcharge fees to $1 per individual line and $10 per trunk line. That would increase our revenue by approximately $188,000 per year. So our projected revenue if this increase is approved, would be $753,000 and some change. We are also recommending that in the county code, we are changing the language where we can't have a carryover balance of more than $500,000 unencumbered to be more in line with what the NRS says.
Can we pause on just briefly on that? So to me that's, oh yeah, wait, I'm supposed to be fast, but to me that is, I don't understand that, because these are large purchases that you sometimes have to make, right, in order to replace a component or related components. Why would, but I understand that you would want the people who fund this to benefit from what they've paid, and if you have transiency, that wouldn't, I guess that's the thinking. What else is the thinking? Why would they lower that?
The carryover balance is based on population in the NRS. So if you have less than 52,000 people, they say you can't carry over more than 500,000. Between 52,000, and oh gosh, I forgot what the number was, but then you can have up to 1 million, and then there's another threshold where you can carry over even more. So we don't reach the population threshold. Maybe I'll have a chat with Lindsay after this about legislation next year. So this is just a snapshot of our expenditures and revenues over the last few years. So this year we started with a revenue of, or we will over this fiscal year have 565,000. We've spent approximately 225,000 already. We carried forward 255,000 from last year. Our current encumbered funds are our priority dispatch software, which was approved today, thank you, for $27,000. And then we also have our console replacement for $182,000. So if I do my math correctly, sorry, we started with $820,000. And after our expenses and are encumbered, we'll have $385,000 left in this fund for the rest of this fiscal year.
Mr. Chairman, if I may jump in at this point, Jennifer Davidson, County Manager for the record. And I can't remember, Kara, if you end up covering this in a later slide. If you do, I apologize.
No problem.
But I don't want to move too far away from the point I believe our Vice Chair was attempting to make on the record. Definitely the amount that we're able to hold in reserve in this account is having an impact on our decisions as to where we spend this money and when we spend this money. What it means and why it's important for this county commission to think about is that when we look at long-term capital planning and expenses related to 911 radio dispatching infrastructure, we have a $10 million expense on the horizon, which we have not set aside sufficient funding to I'm missing my words, but we haven't figured this problem out. We haven't cracked this nut, right? We have significant investments in very old infrastructure, radio infrastructure that we need to make. This is one potential funding source for this, but one of the reasons why we have not set aside sufficient funding to replace all of that equipment is because of the statutory limitations here. So we are planning for a combination of things, but the reality of the situation means is that a large portion of the expenses associated with this operation are borne by the general fund, and yet another reason why our general fund is incredibly strapped at this time.
We may want to talk to Lindsay about that.
Thank you. So getting to our expenses. So these are the priorities highlighted in the 5-year plan and then some of the estimated costs. So enhanced 911 and next generation support costs, all dispatch centers are moving towards this. It's basically being able to be interoperable with all dispatch platforms across the state. As you know, here in rural Nevada, we are small but mighty, so we are the backup dispatch center for Lyon if they go down. We help Carson City out, and so this new technology allows us to be more interoperable, especially with our state agencies as well. And so the estimated cost, I don't have a good one for you because it depends on what direction other dispatch centers go and which direction the state goes. So that price tag is between $500,000 and $1 million. And that is a not very great guess, so it could probably be more than that based on what technologies we're able to get across the state. Other costs and priorities are our computer-aided dispatch and logging recorder. We record every single call that comes into the dispatch center, so even if you call the non-emergency line, it is a recorded line. And so we do that for anytime the sheriff's office or the DA's office needs audio from a call, we have to log every single call that comes through the dispatch center. And so 40,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but that's our regular cost. So if we have to replace that or get something newer, that cost could go up. Emergency Communications Center technology and software, that's just what we use on a daily basis for tracking resources across the county, and technology, as you know, has an increasing price tag every day. So 150,000 is probably a pretty conservative guess. First responder technology and software related to 911 and emergency dispatch calls for service. We share the bill with DCSO on our computer-aided dispatch actual platform. And then the big price tag on this, the public safety radio system, while this fund is not responsible for paying for all of that, that has a $10 million price tag on it. And so this, because it does directly support emergency communications from the user to the responder, we feel, ooh, I don't know what I just did, sorry. This will help us fund that. And then the last thing, our priority is authorized personnel and training costs. We finally have sufficient staffing, which I'm very proud of. So we do have to provide now continuing education instead of initial training and education. So we look forward to expanding our dispatchers' abilities and capabilities. So that is the plan in a nutshell, and I'm open for questions.
Commissioner Hill.
Regarding that $10 million price tag, I remember the list, maybe not all of them: Alpine, Tahoe Douglas, East Fork, Douglas County Sheriff's Office. Would they take a proportionate share of that 10 million, or are our charges for, we charge them, right?
Yes.
Do our charges reflect an amount to upgrade our hardware or software?
So with Alpine County specifically, they do not use our radio infrastructure. They are responsible for their own. So that $10 million does not include Alpine County. That was just on the dispatch side. One thing I did not put in the presentation is California does their 911 surcharge fees differently. And since we dispatch for them, we get their training allocation. So we do get $10,000 from Alpine County every year, but it's only for personnel training, not the rest of the stuff.
We still charge them the cost, right?
For dispatch, yes, not for radio.
But can you do dispatch without radio?
Yes. No. We charge them for dispatch, and so that would include the costs for the equipment. But they have way fewer calls. I think they had just over 2,000 calls for service last year. It's a much smaller proportion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may jump in. Jennifer Davidson, County Manager for the record. We do have user agreements with the various agencies that are referenced on that slide, which we are in the process of discussing with those agencies. We have not collected sufficient funding to invest in the $10 million radio infrastructure cost that we're seeing. It is definitely something that all of the agencies have acknowledged and we're in discussions about. Regardless, the cost exists and it is our owned infrastructure. So I hope that directly answers your question.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask, we have a new service, or new to me anyways, as I understand, and we have attempted to roll this out also in regards to reverse 911, right? And I know you had a list of number of calls up there previously. Do we have a number there on reverse 911 calls made by us? Is that the outgoing?
No, so reverse 911 doesn't go out over our phone lines. It goes out through a different system.
Okay.
And I believe we have roughly 20,000 people signed up for reverse 911.
I'm sorry, but what system does that go out under then?
It's through a software called Motorola Rave, and so we go into that system, and if you sign up, your phone number's in there, so it gets sent out through that. It's not someone making a phone call.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, as I look at this, obviously, we have a number of probably entities within our county that costs have gone up. First, number one, certainly the cost of employees have gone up. And so I recognize, but I know that we're not talking about really the ordinance today because we're not acting on the ordinance today. This is a first reading of that, but so, okay. Anyways, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any further questions from the board?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry if I may, Jennifer Davidson, County Manager. So for clarification for the public, because I suspect you're about to open it up for public comment, what we're asking the board to consider doing today is to adopt the 911 surcharge 5-year master plan. We will be bringing back the ordinance that has been introduced today at a future meeting of the County Commission, and at that time, you will consider whether or not to increase the surcharge fee from 75 cents to $1 and the trunk fee from $7.50 to $10. With that, Mr. Chairman, I turn it back to you.
Thank you. I can't tell you how important communication is. There's nothing that will run your day so fast as being in a dead spot in this county and opening your microphone to ask for Code 3 assistance and having nobody respond. That is something that really needs to be addressed. And I can't help myself. I have to say my favorite 911 call. I had a new neighbor who called 911 and said, "There's a bear on my deck." And the response was, "You're not from here, are you?" Perfect. And with that, I will open to public comment. Seeing no one jumping up, I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared. I move for the adoption of the 911 surcharge 5-year master plan as recommended by the 911 Surcharge Advisory Committee on September 16, 2024, as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Seven, for possible action, discussion to approve the dedication of the public multimodal trail easement over APNs 1319-15-000-034 and 1319-22-000-021 from Holiday Inn Club Vacations Incorporated and Wally's Property Owners Association Incorporated to Douglas County for the purpose of constructing a multimodal trail through Wally's Resort, David Wally's Resort, and to authorize the county manager to sign any documents. Mr. Hutchings.
Yep, just 1 second while I try to wrestle this presentation out of the... Share, I think, right? Okay. So Jeremy Hutchings, still your county engineer, believe it or not. Brooke Addy, Community Services Director, she's been doing a lot of the work with, most of the work with Wally's, who we have in the background, and Brooke's gonna introduce him later. But, so here's a great quote from some trails guy, Burke Davis, about people being a bigger part of trails because you gotta keep pressing forward a little bit at a time, and this is what this project's about. So where's the project located? It's located at David Wally's. Hopefully everyone knows where that is, but it's just south of Genoa. Address is 2001 Foothill Road. And it's got some really nice hot springs. So what are we doing? So basically Brooke's been working with the Wally's folks, and I've just been kind of helping out just a little bit. But we're trying to, there's a existing multimodal trail. And what is a multimodal trail? You're looking at a picture of it here. I'm circling it. It's just a flat paved trail. It seems to be pretty popular in this area. And there's one that extends from the north end of Wally's up to Genoa. And this one, what we're talking about today is just adopting the easement from Wally's for the trail. But I'm kind of tracing the trail easement location. It's basically east of what people consider Wally's, between the buildings and the slough. So it'd actually be a pretty cool extension of the existing trail. We're also seeing a quick cross-section of the trail for the engineers in the audience. Not seeing many. I'm a little disappointed, but this is where all the fun stuff happens: aggregate base, different types of asphalt. Really exciting. Yeah, the trail easement kind of varies in width, but it's about 30 feet wide, and it allows for a 10-foot wide trail. And it's generally at grade, so it's largely handicap accessible, et cetera. It's really nice for walking. So cost no, strategic plan, yes. So there's two entities at Wally's: the Homeowners Association, and then the Holiday Inn Club, basically, that runs the resort at large. And then they've offered to dedicate the easement to us. So that's very generous, and they've been great to work with. So no direct costs here today. We're just accepting the easement. Strategic plan goals, so it hits on 3: roads and traffic, responsible and sustainable tourism, outdoor recreation. And that all ties back into the master plan for the trail and enhancing walkability and such. So those are 3 strategic plan and initiative items you could check off if you're a checklist guy, which I am. So is it part of the trails plan? Yeah, you betcha. So here's a little snapshot of the trails plan, and we're talking about this area up in here where Genoa comes down on 206 and kind of hooks. So it's the 2023 trails plan, section priority J. So it's definitely on the plan. So this is just part of the plan. We're working the plan. So who's been involved with this? Well, Brooke, certainly for staff. Our surveyor is RCI, Todd Enke and Jarrett Schumann have been helping out with the legal description. And then most importantly is the owner, Holiday Inn Club, and Wally's Property Owners Association. Been great to work with. And it's been a little bit of back and forth trying to get things right, so we get the trail in the right location, and so it won't interrupt with their services and discussions on maintenance and signage and such. They've been great. Teamwork makes the dream work. So they've been great team members. So the recommended motion is to allow County Manager Davidson to sign documents necessary, which we received yesterday via FedEx, signed on behalf of Wally's. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but before we do so, I think Brooke wants to say a few words and introduce maybe the Wally's folks.
Yep. Thank you, Jeremy. Brooke 80, Community Services Director. This has been a project that has been ongoing for probably a year and a half, little over a year. It started when we were working on the Trails Master Plan. We went to the Genoa Town Hall meeting and we had a discussion about this plan and identifying trails and priorities, and a representative from the Holiday Inn, Wally's, came to me and said, hey, we want to dedicate some land. We want to extend the Mountain Vista Trail to wrap around Wally's. And I said, this is a great project. And a year and a half later, here we are. Jeremy is highly underscoring his work and involvement in this project. He was really the one that helped push this forward. And so thank you, Jeremy, for all of your work. This is a really big win in our overall Trails Master Plan. This is one piece of the overall connectivity where we're connecting Genoa through Muller to town, to the Martin Slough, all over it. And so each time that we're able to get some of these easements approved, it really helps in this overall connectivity. So we're really excited. So in the audience, we have Mindy Stewart Haskell, and so she is with Wally's, and then we also have Kathleen Williams Miller, who is with the Homeowners Association. And if it hadn't been for Mindy coming to me at that Genoa Town Hall meeting, and then the advocacy of Kathleen, we really wouldn't be where we are today. They were really two of the individuals that helped push this forward. So we want to really thank them and thank them for all of their hard work and their vision in extending this trail and offering some more outdoor recreational activities and opportunities for the people, not only in our community, but the visitors who come. So this is a great win. So thank you, thank you.
I have a question, actually two questions. I'm looking at the map. If you go back a slide. Well, there you go. Looking at item number 6, it looks like the trail is in conflict with the edge of the building, or at least the edge of the lot. Is that a problem?
You got a really sharp eye, Mr. Noasat. We do have a topographic survey. The easement clips the legal parcel, but not the building itself. There's a little bit of distance between the property line and the building, and we're threading the trail right through there. And that's why it's actually 2 people signed the document, the HOA for Aurora. This is the Aurora building, I think. And somebody from Wally's will say something if I get the building names wrong.
Yeah, I
and
think the same.
then this is what I call the ocean parcel. So you've got the main parcel where the easement's located, then individual property owners of HOAs for the buildings themselves. But it does not conflict with the building. We won't put the trail
And
through
I would
the
assume the same applies to number 12, which that goes at the beginning of the
Correct.
trail.
12
Okay.
also comes close, but does not plow through the kitchen.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the board? This is an action item, so we will open public comment.
Good afternoon. I visited Wally's in the 80s before this whole development was here, and I'm glad to be a resident of Douglas County watching this redevelopment come through here. I encourage all of you, this is a really nice time of year before the rain or anything else comes, or even after the rain, to come visit this trail. I use it often because I live close by. I bring all my friends and relatives there, and I just want to thank Jeremy and Brooke for bringing this forward and presenting it to you as they have. It really is an extraordinary place to visit, and of course the restaurant there is fabulous as well. Thank you.
Jason Gibson, this is a really positive project. Thank you for bringing that forward. I'm looking forward to how it connects with the other Master Trail endeavor. We have parks, we have utilities, we have a lot of really nice things in this county, and every time the county takes a picture of it on the social Facebook, there ain't nobody in those parks. There's nobody truly enjoying these facilities or these utilities. You're going to build a nice new trail, and I'm going to be on it with my electric bike, and I'll be doing what I do. But a vast majority of you are so wrapped up in your ego mansion or your fancy car that you're not going to get out and enjoy these things. You just won't, and the county's going to pay an arm and a leg so that you can have a quality of life that you don't have the time to enjoy.
Any further public comment? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner.
So I really appreciate Mindy and I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but anyways, I understand and I appreciate you bringing this forward and the work that our staff has done on this also. So at this time, I move to approve the dedication of the public multimodal trail easement over APNs 1319-15-000-034 and 1319-22-000-000 021 from Holiday Inn Club Vacations Incorporated and Wally's Property Owners Association Incorporated to Douglas County for the purpose of constructing a multimodal trail through David Wally's Resort and authorize the county manager to sign any necessary documents.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we're going to do a photo op. All right, we will move on to number 8. We through this whole agenda. Item number 8, for possible action. Introduction of ordinance 2024-1644, an ordinance amending Douglas County Code, Chapter 2.56, relative to the term length served by a member of the Water Conservancy Advisory Committee. This will be the first reading. Mr. Hutchings.
Yep, Jeremy Hutchings, County Engineer. This is just the first reading, Mr. Chairman, and just in general for the public. I think it was Scott Morgan asked to, at behalf of one of the ditch committee members, to bring forward an ordinance so it more aligns with other boards that the county has where, you know, they get appointed for 4 years instead of 2. And that's really all this is. I've taken it to the ditch committee last special meeting in November. There was 3 of them there. They all voted to recommend approval to this board as well. So I'll be back at the second meeting in December for the actual action.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'm saying that
Is this inappropriately called the possible action today because?
No, it says possible action
I know
on
what it
the
says,
agenda.
but I thought we had to have 2 readings of ordinances. Can we
That
get
it's introduction of the
clarification
ordinance.
from legal counsel on this?
So this should be for presentation only.
Mr. Chairman, because it is listed for possible action, do you believe we need to call for public comment? We should, and that is a
Okay.
mistake, an administrative oversight by my office. I apologize.
That's my bad.
But before we go to public comment, I did have some comments, okay? I recognized this a couple of years ago, and I actually instigated this change to ordinance, change to county code, and that's what I asked, is it in county code? Is it a operating rule of the committee? Is it, what exactly is it? And we found out that it is county code. And what I would recognize, and what I recognized then, their motto on this committee is that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting, okay? These 5 members, Mr. Hoosman, David Hoosman, Mr. Gerticke, I always get that pronunciation wrong, but Mr. Frank Gerticke, Mr. Scassa, one of the oldest ranchers in our community, Mr. Hone, and Mr. Fred Stodik, they are the ones responsible for removing our water around the county through the various ditches and things of that nature, and have been on this conveyance committee for a very long period of time. I don't anticipate that It's like we don't get changes on this, so it didn't seem to me appropriate that we do this on an every 2-year basis, while we have so many other committees that are, get a 4-year appointment. So that's why this came forward, and we wanted to try to bring it forward at this time because we have, I believe, a couple of members that are coming due for renewal perhaps in January. So anyways, that's why it's being introduced today, and then we'll hopefully act upon it, I believe, at our second meeting in December, right? So that we'll be prepared to handle that when it comes up. So anyways, that's the instigation here, and that's all I wanted to add to it. And it does say here on the agenda, it says recommended motion for presentation only. So we just got the little typo in there wrong a little bit. So anyways, I have nothing else to say, but thank you. I encourage my county commissioners to take a strong look at this.
Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, since the agenda shows us for possible action, we will open to public comment. Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board, and there's no action necessary. This is the first reading. Mr. Hutchings, thank you. And we will move on to item number 9. Don't go anywhere, Brooke. Where are you? There you are. This is for possible action, discussion to approve the addition of 2 new full-time DART drivers at an annual budgeted cost of $143,000. Commissioner Gardner and Brooke 80. I finally got the name right.
Yep, good, thank you. Brooke 80, Community Services Director. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about these new positions. I know Commissioner Gardner is going to say a few words about our journey to get here where we are today. And it's been quite the journey, and we're really pleased to be here to talk about what an impact these 2 drivers can make on our community, especially in some of our underserved areas. So we were able to secure some grant funding for these 2 positions. One of the position is going to serve our South County area and Topaz Ranch Estates and Holbrook area. What we're going to do is to really start with a dial-a-ride service that can help people get from door-to-door location, and then ease into and start planning for a more permanent route. I think that starting with a dial-a-ride system is the best way to get established in the area. It helps the residents form relationships with our transportation drivers and get them comfortable using the system. So what we're looking at doing is 3 days a week we have congregate meals down in our TRE Community Center. We would like to have a driver start in the area, picking people up and taking them to that congregate site so that they can participate in the lunch and in some of the social activities that happen. There are, classes and bingo that happen around lunchtime. And then 2 days a week, having service throughout the day multiple times, bringing residents from South County into town. One, to participate in our congregate lunch that we have at the community center, but also provide them some opportunities to go to Walmart, go to the movie theater, go do some shopping, and really bring them into town so that they can get their needs met in town. We still continue to provide dial-a-ride down in South County for medical appointments, and so this is just going to enhance that. The other driver, we're looking at expanding some services up at Lake Tahoe. And doing some more dial-a-ride services up there. So I think that having these 2 drivers are really going to enhance our transportation services and meet a couple of our strategic plan goals. One is enhancing our transit options and expanding our senior services. And so right now I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Gardner to say a few things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hady, and I'm really excited about this. 6 years ago, I was appointed by the Board of Commissioners to serve on the Senior Services and Public Transportation Advisory Board, and I appreciated that opportunity and began immediately to recognize in the public transportation segment of that board, advisory board, that we had a failure of delivery of transportation services to South County. And as my fellow commissioners understand, that's my primary responsibility in District 3. So at that time, in that committee process, I attempted to start a service to our residents, and initially, what we were going to try to do is recruit volunteers to have a minivan that could possibly bring our residents up to North County that could participate in the congregate dining program that we had at our community center. They're the same meals, by the way, the Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday meals that we currently serve at our community center in South County. Topaz Ranch Estates is the identical meal that they get at the community center. So it just goes down there. But we recognized also that we had a vulnerable demographic down there, young families and older folks, and so it's one of the most underserved areas of our county. We were unsuccessful in gaining the amount of volunteer drivers that we needed, and so it kind of took a back seat. And so I've been advocating now as a commissioner for the last 4 years. I hate to use the term, but as we go into the winter, I would say that sometimes government works slower than a sloth covered in molasses in the middle of winter. And this is a perfect example. It's been a 6-year battle, but I really appreciate the persistence of Mr. Morgan and now Brooke 80 serving as our Community Services Director in continuing to try to pursue this and through the process of grants and getting the equipment that we need to instigate this. So as I've tried to articulate to our population down there also, it's a use it or lose it process, okay? If we can't justify, right now we have a dial-a-ride program that's $1. We charge a resident $1 to call our dial-a-ride program and come down and pick them up. That's a tremendous, to me, it's not a good use of our money, okay? Even though our resident needs that service, to send a van that carries approximately 20 people, maybe a little bit less, and a driver and that equipment and the gas involved certainly can't compensate us for the cost of that, even though it's a service that we really owe our residents. So anyways, I'm excited about this, and hopefully we're going to promote the heck out of it should it pass today, and then and try to make sure that we have the riders to justify it as the years roll out. So anyways, I encourage your support of this.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to congratulate and thank Ms. Adie for the very nice presentation, but I do want to caution you to be careful what you promised. There's absolutely no way Commissioner Gardner was going to say just a few words.
Having said that, this is a action item, so we will open to public comment.
Jason Gibson with Tall Guy Audits. As a trucker's son, there's nobody who appreciates transportation like I do. I use it frequently. I know that Commissioner Gardner's been working hard on this. He would have you think that these are vans that are being dispatched to be of service. But these are buses. They're not vans. They seat anywhere from 20 to 30 people. And oftentimes there's only 3 to 4, maybe even 5 people on any of these buses at any given time. And the county is adamantly in denial of any proposal to improve the efficiency of our transportation system. I've got $50 right now to bet that none of these commissioners have rode or have ridden the bus. I've got money that says that a lot of our city elect and county employees don't ride the bus. We know that they don't use our DART transit to reduce DUIs for Carson Valley days, because that would be a real benefit to people. They don't run the weekend DART buses to reduce those DUIs because that's their cash cow. They want to nab you when you're out there drinking and driving. So again, it's back to the organizational principle of jumbo government. And they're buying bigger buses and they're throwing more money at it, and they just keep throwing money at it, hoping it's going to stick. But it's not. It's not working. And when you have these events at the Tahoe Blue, where are the buses? They're not there. There's a total disconnect with the way these folks are administrating our resources, with the way that they're organized. We're supposed to have 22 boards or 22 support committees that are supposed to be helping our government with policy decision-making, helping them with information, and in basically sifting through all of the enormous amount of details to help us be more efficient so that we do more with less, but it's not happening. My mother said, instead of working harder, think smarter. Makes perfect sense. We've been self-employed for 60 years. They say that I'm mentally incompetent because of my creativity, because I actually know what's happening and deploy resources in a responsible manner. So who's the one that's really incompetent here?
Any further public comment?
Good afternoon. I was happy to see this come forward. I live in North County, which, again, I'm not sure we're underserved, but we also, as a community, don't travel to the community center because it is a little bit further for most of us. I know my neighbors don't know that they can call Dial-A-Ride DART and get to doctor's appointments if they need to. I just think we need to explore bringing this forward, maybe through the next door networks a little bit better, through some public information outreach. Again, it's not a service. I have used the service just to see how it works. I've used microtransit up in Tahoe just to see how it works. And 30 years ago, I rode a bus from Huntington Beach to the LAX area to go to work. So I understand those systems can work if they were appropriately advertised, as well as instrumental in getting people to their destinations on time. I want to thank Brooke for the staff report here, talking that 60% of the costs are grant, but that their department figured out, at least at this time, that this could be partially funded. I'm assuming that there will be some follow-up with this on ridership statistics to figure out how much longer we should provide these services in what we call underserved areas. And when we start looking at transportation in general, I'm looking forward to having a more cohesive plan between the Tahoe Township and the Valley. Thank you.
James McCullough for the record. I'm always in favor of extending services to more parts of the county. I think the better we can do that, it's not sometimes how much people ride it or how many people ride it. It's the fact that they live in this county and they should have these services. And I also, and I've said it before, but I commend the DART program because my wife was on dialysis. And though I was able to bring her to the dialysis center, it's fairly close to my home, many of the people that receive dialysis in the ranchos at that clinic use DART to get there, and without DART, I don't know how they could remain in their homes. So these are valuable services. Thank you.
Commissioner.
Are you done with?
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, now, Commissioner.
I was too slow to ask this before, but if these are grant funded, do we expect the grants to be repeated?
Brooke 80, Community Services Director. These are grants that we have gotten year over year from both NDOT and Aging and Disability Services to support our transportation program. And so we'll continue to apply for them, and we've gotten them for many, many years. So
Great. And right now, I appreciate your saying that one would be mostly dedicated to South County and one to the lake. Will you monitor ridership, just as Commissioner Gardner mentioned, and reassign those if the numbers don't warrant?
yes.
The resource?
Yes, it is our intention to really give a year to really, it's going to take time for people to make sure that this is a reliable resource and get familiar with it and be comfortable with it. And so I think that it's really important for us to have a really extended period of time to monitor this and provide it before we would make any changes.
I think that's fair, but I do think monitoring is important, and we don't run empty buses for years on end.
Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment. I disagree with what the first speaker had stated about under servicing areas and not having enough ridership. And maybe it follows a little bit with what you're saying too. But I agree with what Mr. McCallum said. If sometimes you got to provide service to places that may not have as many riderships just because they don't have those services out there. Just because there's less people there doesn't mean there isn't a need for public the government to provide them that same type of service. And I will have this board think just for a second that they commented about these laws being passed in Nevada because most of the legislators are in Clark County. Well, they have most of the people there and they're using most of the resources there. But it's just as important as our rural counties are that we have the services that we need, even if it's not going to be used as much as in Clark County or Washoe County, because we're part of the state and we pay our taxes, and that's what government is for. I hope you monitor it, but I hope you don't just discount it because there's a smaller number of people that are using it as opposed to maybe an area that already has a lot of people and resources. If nobody has, you want to make this motion because this is more for you. I would appreciate it. Yeah.
If there's no other comment, Commissioner Gardner, I think we're ready for a motion.
Thank you. I move for the approval of the addition of 2 new full-time DART drivers at an annual budgeted cost of $143,000 as presented.
And I'm going to second that.
Thank you.
Enthusiasm.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion from the board, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I thought not. Motion passes 5-0.
Now, thank you. May I add one additional comment?
I'm sure you can.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's incumbent upon us also. We have magnetized door for refrigerator magnetized phone numbers for code enforcement. And perhaps maybe we could get magnetized numbers for DART service into Topaz Ranch Estates and those other communities down there, so that the residents would have an easy accessible number to call to get that done. Yeah.
And as soon as possible, fixed routes and schedules, because that's what we want to go to.
All right, if there's no further discussion on that item, we will close it and move on to item number 10.
Thank you again.
Which is for possible action. Discussion to approve budget transfers relating to the Herbick Park projects, including updates on the Herbick Park pickleball courts. Try saying that one fast. 23P01, Herbert Park Paver Project 23P05, Herbick Park Restroom Facility 24P04, and Herbick Park Beautification Projects 23P04, leaving a net budget surplus of $11,175.26. Brooke 80.
Mr. Chairman, who picked out this picture? You blocked me out of this picture. I'm very offended.
Brooke 80, Community Services Director. Thank you all. You're all commenting on the picture. Thank you all for the opportunity to talk about our Herbig Park Pickleball Complex. I thank you all for your participation in our grand opening ceremony. It was a lovely event. When the day started, the weather was not in our favor and then quickly turned right as we were ready to get started. And so we were very lucky on that day to have all of you there supporting and all of the community. I'm also very pleased to be able to talk about this project and what a great project it was, and how all of the things came together, and everybody's support was such an honor to be part of. So as Commissioner Rice was talking about, there were 4 different projects that went into creating this pickleball complex, and it was funded through both the room tax and residential construction tax. So here are we had our pickleball complex was one project, we had our Herbig Park beautification, our pathway paver upgrades, and then another Herbig Park beautification phase, which was actually the restroom itself. I'm honored to be able to show you guys several pictures of this project as it has been happening, because you guys were all there for the final reveal, but it was really awesome to see it as it was going through and being created. Here's the pickleball complex, and this was created with a post-tension slab, which is some new technology in the pickleball world, and so these courts will actually have less cracks and issues with them because of the slab that was poured. And so you can see the work being done here throughout these pictures. And then we have our final picture with our bird's eye view. They were still doing a little bit finishing touches, but it's really nice to be able to see how all of these 8 courts turned out, and with the colors that we chose that complement our area very nicely. The other picture in here is a nice social area that was created, and this was during the actual event itself with the ribbon cutting. So we had lots of pickleball players out there that day. Our second one was a Herbig beautification.
So before we go past that, I think it's important also to recognize, I believe it was, am I mistaken, the Kiwanis Club that provided tables and amenities to that public area?
Excuse me, Brooke 80, Community Services Director. It was the Rotary. The Rotary had a fundraiser. They did a pancake fundraiser on Super Bowl Sunday, and they were able to raise over $3,000 to help us purchase some of the tables that are set up around for the social area. Thank you for pointing that out. Another part of the project was Herbig beautification. When the community center was first built and there was sort of a master plan that was established for the Herbig Park area, one of the pieces of that was a pathway that wrapped all the way around the building. That we've had lots of discussions about getting this pathway finished and really talking about where it's going to go behind the building. And we were able to complete that as part of this project. So you see them building the pathway here. So it starts where the pickleball courts are, and it wraps all the way around the building, and it comes out by the skate park, and I think it's 6/5 of a mile, if that's how you say it. And it does get a lot of use, and we're looking at putting some animal waste stations out there because we see people walking their dogs out there, so it's a really nice pathway. Here are some other pictures of the pathway. You can see where it wraps around the skate park, some of the other pavers that went in, the pathway leading up to the bathrooms, and then again that social area where the picnic tables are that we talked about and where we had our event. Here's some additional pathway pictures as we were working on it. We do have 2 handicap parking spaces there that are also laid out with pavers on the other side of the facility. Here's some pictures of the bathroom. One of the coolest things that I've been able to participate in is watching them bring this bathroom, which is I think about 15 and a half feet wide, on the back of a trailer and pick it up with a crane and put it in its permanent location. So it was very exciting to be able to see there and watch that happen. So we wanted to share some pictures of how that process went. This was one building that was built in Johnson Lane by Public Restrooms and delivered to us in one piece. We were able to have it delivered to us in one piece because we used the local vendor who's right down the road. If this were going anywhere else in the country, they would have had to split the building into halves, maybe even thirds. Additional pictures of the bathroom. And so what we're asking, a couple things that I want to highlight is that this was a big project and we used residential construction tax and room tax, and it was a big project that moved very quickly, and we were able to get it done under budget and ahead of schedule. We were able to open the pickleball courts last June for people to play all summer, and so this was a really big, successful project and a big win for our community and the pickleballers in the area. So here are the different projects that we have. We're looking to just true up all of our project numbers so that we can close it out and be done. Any questions?
Just one.
Yes.
Is the bathroom connected to the sewer system?
Yes. Flushing toilets, the works, they're really nice.
No questions, but congratulations, because this is fantastic.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, this is a action item. We will open to public comment. I've got to learn how to do that. I got pickleball equipment for Christmas last year, and I'm not even sure what the rules are. I was a tennis player, and now the tennis courts are going away for pickleball. But at my age, maybe that's a good thing.
Well, we did open up 2 new pickleball courts up at Kale, so if you want to go up at Kale and play, you have a view of the lake, and they're really nice.
Don't tell my wife.
You realize that.
Okay, and I didn't see anybody jumping up for public comment, so I will bring it back to the board for a motion.
Well, I will move approval of budget transfers as presented.
Been moved and seconded and almost thirded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
Pickleball is tennis with a paddle. That's it.
All right, moving right along. For presentation only, announcements and updates from the county commissioners, including the boards and commissions that they may be a member of or liaison to, or any other meetings and functions they have attended. And we will start at the far end. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As was, other than the Visitors Authority has created a Christmas in the Valley theme, I believe it is, identifying all the different activities that take place within our community, including the craft fairs, the parade of lights, Genoa's, and the unveiling of lighting of trees and all that. So I think that was a great campaign that our Visitors Authority is heading up, and our Chamber and Main Street Gardnerville participating in. And so I encourage the public to look into that. It's kind of taking all those activities and trying to put it under one moniker or one umbrella. So I encourage the community to look at that, because we have so many great things happening in our community around the Christmas season. So, and I also wish everybody happy Thanksgiving next week, right? So, anyways, nothing else to report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Nothing from And how about you, sir? Nothing from you. Anybody?
Yes, I have stuff. Last night, the Carson Water Subconservancy District did their strategic plan meeting. It was very productive. They also had a regular meeting, and this is worthy to note. Ramon Naranjo from USGS presented a new report on the quality of water in various places. And of course, the report shows a growing concern with nitrates in certain specific locations. And I would think it would be important for us to have him present in the coming months so that we can get the information that was prepared by USGS. I want to note that Commissioner Tarkanian and I met with folks from Verizon, and it was very useful and informative. I have a number of follow-up questions that I'm going to take to our legal counsel so that I can fully understand, and also to our staff, so that I can fully understand as much about cell towers as I can so I can make a good decision on the matters forthcoming. I went to NNDA, and I want to say that Nikki Rudelbach has done a very good job representing us and working with businesses and coordinating with NNDA to maximize the resources available in our county to help good businesses as they think about coming. So I just wanted to recognize her good work. I did go to TDVA to request that they consider a position with TRPA regarding microtransit in light of the JPA. Lots of alphabet there, and if you want to ask me more, I'd be happy to chat. Our community center did an incredible job with a Veterans Day program that I was privileged to go to. I particularly liked the preschool involvement and the senior involvement and the bagpipes. It was awesome. The last thing I want to bring up is in our strategic plan, we talk frequently about open space. And when I am talking to people, when I was campaigning, they love the rural character of our county. They love our open space. They love our farmland. 4 years ago, the voters had an opportunity to weigh in on the quarter-cent tax. If that had passed, it would have generated at least, and I'm getting these numbers from Jacques Echegoyen, who has worked extensively in conservation easements. If that had passed, it would have generated $2.5 million a year. And there is, with the Reno Federal Conservation Service matching that amount, it would have cost households approximately, less than $30 per year. With that money, we could have protected 500 acres per year, or over 2,000 acres in the 4 years since that effort was not approved by the voters. I would suggest that it is our duty as commissioners to make sure our voters are educated, our residents understand that to protect these beautiful vistas and these important historic farms, we can't just sit back. And what we have seen is the erosion of farms. At Carson Water Subconservancy District, Cassie Uhart Kerner was there, and she spoke to the fact that all the farm children, her being one, that she knows, are selling their farms for A19 residential construction. We are losing our farms. It is important for us to inform the public that these farms don't just happen, and they are not our right without any kind of investment. So I say all this to get to the point. I would like us to make sure we have a high priority on our open space efforts under the strategic plan, especially we had one public comment about asking our Lindsay Knox to work on getting rid of the sunset of these kinds of quarter-cent taxes for open space so that we can potentially, if there is a grassroots effort to try that again, that we won't have a sunset that would impede that effort. And I think it is important for us as commissioners to say truth to our residents, which is these farms aren't just going to sit here and be there for us to enjoy if we don't have some kind of support or involvement in ensuring that they stay. Thank you for that, for your attention to that lengthy matter.
Thank you. I'll keep mine brief. Since the last regular meeting, we had a canvass on last Friday where we approved the vote. I've attended a TDVA meeting and LTVA meeting. I'm throwing a lot of letters out there. And last Tuesday, we have a new member of representing the state of Nevada on the TRPA, Mr. Ben Kiefer, and we met with him along with Megan Kelly to show him that we have done for the Burke Creek Restoration Project, what we anticipate doing for the Kale Complete Streets Project, and he also toured the future site, maybe, of the new Barton facility. So I've had a busy schedule, and I love what I do. And with that, I will close that, and we will move on
Mr. Chair,
to
before
closing public comment. And yes, sir.
Before we go any further, we've had a person enter the room, and I would like to recognize her. Okay, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, County Manager Jennifer, or maybe you should make this announcement. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you then.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, members of the commission, Jennifer Davidson, County Manager for the record. With me here today in the audience is newly appointed Assistant County Manager, Miss Wendy Lang. Wendy has 11 years with Douglas County, extensive experience. She is a critical thinker, a wonderful team player, and I'm so excited to have her working in a new capacity in my office. Wendy, I don't know if you have anything you want to say, but welcome to the team. It's going to be a fun ride. Just ask Mr. Morgan. For those who have been watching, there are some exciting things going on in my office with the addition of Ms. Lang. We are also seeing the departure of our Chief of Staff, Ms. Elgis. She has accepted a wonderful role with Carson Tahoe Health, which I'm sure everyone saw in the newspaper. And then Scott Morgan has announced his official retirement date. So incredible life-changing events going on in my office. Big, big things for my team. But we've got some work to do, and let's get it done, Wendy. I'm excited.
Thank you. And did you want to say anything at all, or are you going to stay mum? Okay. All right. And with that, I will open closing public comment.
Jason Gibson. Again, I want to thank Douglas County and the 7,300 heads who voted for me. I'd like you to know about the extent that this county, the stakeholders of this county, the effort that they put into unlawfully removing me from that ballot, how they censored, obstructed, and molested all public opportunities to engage my opponents in public debate, how they trespassed me from the community center and obstructed my participation in that public forum, the dialogue that we witnessed amongst these candidates. I said it before and I'll say it again, the only way these kinds of folks can win, these fictitious persons, is by stealing, lying, or cheating. In this case, this is just a brief snapshot of the paper terrorism deployed by this county to have me falsely arrested. And what's coming forward will be the evidence to show what they did to me while I was locked down for 45 days. The harassment by law enforcement, 23-hour lockdown, 7 days a week, forced to take pharmaceutical meds to congest my head, to screw up my biorhythms, to traumatize me for running for this office. That's the kind of government you got here in Douglas County today. And they sit here and pat themselves on the back. Great job. They gave Kurt Hildebrand an award today. He knowingly, intentionally, and willingly falsified his articles and slandered me to the general public, claiming that I was mentally incompetent and that a doctor had found me so, and that's not true. A lot of these things that these people do aren't genuine and they're not true. And that's coming forward, and that's the reason why they don't want people like me participating in this forum, because it's not our government, it's their government. They've made it very clear. Now, at the end of this year, we're supposed to have reports from all of these committees. There's supposed to be 22 norms and procedures, small groups, who are supposed to be working on our behalf, but it doesn't exist. It's a front. Just like many of the other fronts and value-added services they claim to provide us. They're stealing from us. They're enriching themselves. And they're laughing their way to the bank because you're not present. You're not participating in your assembly. We are the Nevada State Assembly. We are the American States Assembly. We are the New Deal. We have our prosperity unions and an entirely new economy. And that Burning Man's more than just an art festival. It's more than just an international spectacle. It's peace through culture that's taken over.
Any further public comment?
James McKellop for the record. I just really want to commend the elections, all Amy Bergens and all her staff, as well as the temporary employees that worked in the election. I spent many hours in the Republican office, including the day before and the day of the election. I've never heard fewer complaints. I've never seen anything more smooth. And I just have to say that Amy and her staff did a great job. Thank you.
Elizabeth Learnhardt.
Ms. Learnhardt, could you pass the flag back over to Mr. Gibson, please? It's on the podium.
I'm sorry, can I press what?
The little flag there that's in front of you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't even see it. For the record, Elizabeth Learnhardt, I would like to comment to some issue that I have been mulling over for 2 years now after the last assembly, and I was glad that Ms. Fox could speak about as our new lobbyist, because something went utterly wrong during that session. The BDRs are due in December at the latest. I'm sure every BDR has, as BDR 213, Senate Bill 213, had as well a financial impact that had to be written by the county CFO, and I remember very vividly what it says, and I tried to talk to then Terry Willoughby about it, which was a negative, but I don't know why this BDR was not brought to this committee and was not made aware to the commissioners before they voted on the $520,000 to give it to microtransit, just to have it surface a week or two later that they wanted 100% of the TOT. Some communication went wrong. I don't know where it went wrong, but obviously there was plenty of time to communicate this and to take this in consideration. Thank you for your attention.
Okay. I signed you in, Elizabeth. Good afternoon, Ellie Waller. Welcome, Ms. Lang. I look forward to working with you in the future. I want to thank Commissioner Rice, who's not there, and Commissioner Hales for bringing up the Tahoe Douglas Visitors Authority and the Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority and relationship to microtransit. I'm asking all you board members to reach out to the leadership of the hotels as well as employers that ponied up dollars so that the event center could get open. So we went from 24 to 11 to 9 funders. And those major benefactors, even if it was $10K, helped get the event center open. And I also encourage you to reach out to Supervisor Lane and the Joint Powers Authority. I think she as well could encourage the major benefactors in her area as well as the casinos, so we can get some fair funding put in place and maybe make this system work better. Also, I would like to state that I attended in 23 and 24 many legislative sessions. And I want to tell everybody here that as a member of public, it was refreshing to be able to approach senators and assembly people. You go to their offices and their doors are open if you let them know you're coming, or their aides are very good at accepting information from the public as well. And I want to thank Jennifer for having Miss Knox come today. Her presentation was very well received and informative, and I look forward to future information here and hoping that it will not just be informational and the public do get to be involved at that level. And I will be attending many of those sessions, I'm sure. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none.
Mr. Chair, before you
Yes,
adjourn
sir.
the meeting, I would like to take an opportunity to address the Senate Bill 213 BDR. I think that's important that we correct the perhaps the public perception. Ms. Learnhardt, the BDR that was presented, Senate Bill 213, in regards to allocating the entire 1% of the TOT tax to microtransit, was not a BDR that was introduced by this county. It was brought forward by Tahoe Douglas Visitors Authority, to my knowledge, and we were not aware. This board was not, to my knowledge, was not aware of that until we actually found out that the BDR had been presented to the Senate committee. And so when we discovered that ourselves, we went immediately into action to suggest that with our lobbyists at the time and other entities, our state legislators, that we wanted that gone. And so we were very, when we were informed that that was actually had been put into the desk and was not going to be brought forward, we held our breath until the final day of the legislature to ensure that that did not come forward, because we were very much against that process. And we will be bird dogging the state legislature to make sure. I know that other commissioners have said we are not interested in seeing that at all in this current session. So that had nothing to do with the allocation of the $520K that we eventually did, nor I don't know that we were actually asked for a financial impact at Ms. Terry Willoughby's office in that regard as well until maybe after it was actually introduced, so, or thought about. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure that the public understood the processes there. It was not by this board, it was not by our lobby, it was done behind our backs without knowledge, so thank you.
All right, we are now adjourned.